There's some anger from the Democratic side of the aisle from a native Louisianan as well. James Carville on Good Morning America this morning. Take a look.
He could be commandeering tankers and making BP bring tankers in and clean this up. They could be deploying people to the coast right now. He could be with the Corps engineers and the Coast Guard with these people in Plaquemines Parish doing something about these regulations. These people are crying. They're begging for something down here. And it just looks like he's not involved in this. Man, you got to get down here and take control of this, put somebody in charge of this thing and get this thing moving. We're about to die down here.
That is James Carville talking about President Obama, and he went on and on. That is just part of it. Now, our post-politics segment, and we're joined by one of our favorites here, Karen Tumulty, now with the Washington Post. Karen, you've written about the real dilemma that this administration has right now. What do you do with BP? They want to hit BP harder, but they need BP on this cleanup. What's going on?
Well, that's right, and we've had mixed messages from the administration. I think brought most clearly earlier this week when, Secretary Salazar was sort of talking tough. If they don't perform, we'll move them out of the way. And then the very next day, the Coast Guard Admiral Thad Allen, who's in charge of the day-to-day management on the ground, says, and replace them with what? There simply apparently is no expertise out there beyond going to the perpetrator.
Well, Karen, I want to step back here, though, and I know that there are Katrina comparisons going on. Imagine being inside the White House for a moment and being the president and his team. What could they be doing that they're not doing? I mean, what could the president actually do to somehow change all this criticism? Or no, they just kind of have to take it because he's the president and this is happening under his watch. And as he said, he kind of owns it.
Well, I do think that in the sort of near term, what they're going to be judged on is whether, in fact, the resources of the federal government have been marshaled. I, am sort of wondering at some point, who gets fired for this? The fact is that...
What do you think?
Well, you look back and the environmental plan that BP submitted early last year, a lot of the early stuff happened under the Bush administration's watch, but it was the Obama administration that accepted BP's description of what a worst-case scenario would look like and BP's assurances that they could handle it. So you've got to wonder, why hasn't anybody lost their jobs over this?
And you look at MMS, which is, of course, the organization under Interior that is supposed to be responsible for all this. And there'd been this terrible scandal under the Bush administration where they were basically giving away leases. It was almost a sex for oil lease scandal.
A different kind of scandal, though. Right. And Secretary Salazar has said that they have been on top of this from day one, dealing with these kind of problems of corruption that were sort of bred into the culture and the structure of the agency. But what those scandals were nothing like what caused this. It was like they were treating cancer at the agency, and in the middle of it, they had a heart attack.
I want this fundraiser that we were talking about with Lisa Jackson canceling this fundraiser, and President Obama expressing anger while standing at a fundraiser for Barbara Boxer. Is the sense that the White House maybe needs to, if they really want to quell this controversy over how they're handling it, that they have to move to a place where they clear all decks and sort of focus on this exclusively?
Well, also creating situations where you raise questions of bringing people who are seeking influence into the room is a problem, too. I think it's problematic. It goes back at least as far as the Clinton administration to bring people whose jobs are as regulators in as fundraisers as well.
So how big politically a problem does it end up being for the administration? I mean, it's been called a slow motion Katrina. I mean, the president is going down on Friday, but this is only his second. What are we at, day 37 now? And this is only his second trip to the region. How big a problem?
With every passing day, it's obviously becoming a bigger problem. But a lot of this ultimately is going to be judged on results. Not only the near-term results of getting this particular spill under control, but the broader, longer-range results of fixing the problems within the government that allowed it to happen, and potentially using this moment to look at the biggest problem of all, which is our dependence on oil.
And do you sense that this can spark some movement behind the energy debate?
Well, we saw earlier this week, for instance, that the president announced some new regulations on fuel efficiency standards. Again, the fact is we need the oil. And that is the underlying issue that drives all of this.
Karen Tumulty of the Washington Post, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
That does it for this edition of Top Line. Be sure to click us on again tomorrow. We'll be sure to see you then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.